Jewish Dietology Kashrut. The laws of Kashrut know no compromises, the slightest discrepancy, and the product is no longer considered kosher. The rules do not change, do not adapt to the situation, and do not bend to the requirements of the market and the economy. When checking, 40 or even 100% of the products can get into the marriage. At the same time, rejected products and animals can fully comply with other generally accepted standards. However, the traditions and requirements of kashrut are much stricter. Kosher meat products are pure, natural, kosher meat, non-GMO milk, meat without additives, and are real pure meat and meet the concept of healthy eating. Kashrut also defines special rules for slaughtering livestock. A clean animal, a healthy animal, is the basis for future kosher food. Already modern research confirms the effectiveness of this method. In general terms, the animal does not experience unnecessary fear, as a result of which the level of adrenaline in the blood does not increase. The selection of animals is based on the conditions of keeping animals, their nutrition, appearance. The meat is carefully checked, for example, only the lungs of an animal pass 39 degrees of testing. The carcass of the animal, as far as possible, gets rid of the blood, which greatly reduces the content of cholesterol in the product. All this is a guarantee that healthy, wholesome food from the meat of healthy animals will reach our table. Checking kashrut is carried out by specialists who have undergone special training and received the appropriate certification. On products that meet the rules of kashrut, the seal of kashrut, kosher, is put. Glatt kosher, or super kosher, is the strictest system of kashrut rules. According to the rules of kashrut, for example, it is forbidden to eat pork and many seafood, some types of fish. According to the rules, the fish must have scales, and dairy and meat dishes must be prepared and served separately. It is also not allowed to eat meat of equids and rodents, birds of prey, reptiles. There are rules for plant foods as well. Kosher food is observed in many Jewish families, in Israeli restaurants and cafes. Kasher means suitable for food, kashrut, kosher, regulates a rational, healthy diet and high requirements for the quality of food. That is, the sign kosher means that the product is proven, high quality and environmentally friendly, good for health. Kashrut, kosher, is part of the traditions and norms of Judaism. In other words, it is a 3,000-year history of rules and laws, with continuous in-depth study and commentary on complex issues. The meaning of the commandment about kosher. There are many explanations for the meaning of the kosher commandment. We briefly list the most common and popular of them. Maimonides explained these rules rationally, believing that they were supposed to teach people to be content with little. He associated the ban on pork with the fact that the pig is a dirty animal that feeds on sewage. Meat boiled in milk is too heavy food. Besides, boiling a kid in mother's milk is an act of ingratitude towards a goat, whose milk replaced mother's milk for many children. Maimonides generally believed that the Torah forbids only that which is harmful to health. Other thinkers, such as the famous physician Moshe ben Nachman, disagreed with him, pointing out that non-Jews eat non-kosher food without any harm. They argued that kashrut is needed primarily for the soul. This statement was also supported by Yitzhak Abarbanel, a rabbi, the leader of Spanish Jewry, who lived in the second half of the 15th century, who emphasized that the Torah is not a medical reference book. Prohibitions on certain types of food have nothing to do with taking care of physical health. They care about the soul. Each commandment has a deep ideological significance for comprehending the content of the heavenly teaching. The ban on the consumption of blood, allegedly making a person cruel, is subordinated to the same goal. Medieval Rabbi Avadia Sforno wrote, "Unclean food surrounds the soul, hindering the growth of virtue." There is a third version. Kashrut, like other institutions of Judaism, must first of all ensure the obedience of the Jews to the Almighty and protect them from dissolving among other peoples. No wonder it is often called the wall enclosing the Jewish home. In addition to kashrut, there are other food prohibitions in Israel. For example, every seventh year, called Shemitah, fields, and gardens are supposed to be left uncultivated so that the land rests. It is forbidden to consume the fruits of this harvest, and Jews have to buy vegetables and fruits grown abroad. You cannot eat the fruits of any tree that ripens within 3 years after planting. Before eating, Jews are supposed to pronounce various blessings and wash their hands, netilat yadayim. Interestingly, kosher food is becoming more and more popular with non-Jews, especially in the US and England. Of the 11 million Americans who buy kosher food, there are no more than 1.5 million Jews. The rest are representatives of the middle class, convinced that kosher ensures the quality and environmental friendliness of products. The Creator of the universe gave us the law. He knows better than anyone what is good and useful. The commandment to observe kashrut is one of the commandments, the causes and meaning of which are not revealed to us. However, one should trust the Almighty. The Torah has been our guide to life for thousands of years. The Creator of the universe gave us the law according to which we should live. He knows better than anyone what is good and beneficial for our spiritual well-being, even if we do not always understand the reasons for his instructions. When a knowledgeable physician who can be relied upon instructs a cure, we trust him. Moreover, we must trust the one who not only knows how we are arranged, but he himself created us. It is not food alone that gives life. The great Jewish mystic of the Middle Ages, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, Arizal, builds his explanation as a commentary on the verse, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by the word that comes from God," Deuteronomy 8 verse 3. He explains that it is not the food itself that gives life, but the spark of GD, the word from GD, contained in the food. Everything that exists has in itself something of the God spark, that gives life and existence to the world. When we eat, we get strength. If a person has used these powers for holy things, the spark of holiness that is in the food is released and returns to holiness. But this is only possible if the food is kosher. Non-kosher food, on the contrary, pulls a person down to gross materiality. Purpose of the laws of kashrut. The Torah itself explains the purpose of the kashrut laws it introduces. Wherever it is about kashrut, the Torah speaks of holiness, and be holy men with me, and do not eat the meat of an animal torn to pieces in the field, Exodus 22 verse 30. Non-kosher food negatively affects. Non-kosher food negatively affects the spiritual level of a person. It is harmful to the soul, not to the body. Our sages explain that the spiritual sensitivity of a person who consumes non-kosher foods decreases, his heart is closed to the perception of spiritual ideas. Don't be cruel. Shechita, slaughter according to the Torah, is the most humane method of killing an animal. The animal loses consciousness in a split second. The Torah also forbids the consumption of blood, the source of life. Therefore, there are special laws for slaughtering livestock, soaking and salting meat to ensure the removal of blood. By forbidding the eating of blood, the Torah teaches us not to be cruel. Basic principles of kashrut. Living beings permitted and prohibited for eating. Living beings permitted by the Torah to be eaten are called kosher, or clean, and those that are forbidden, non-kosher, or impure. Land animals. Kosher animals have two characteristics: they must have cloven hooves and chew the cud. They are herbivores such as cows, sheep and goats. Many wild herbivores, elk, deer, gazelles, mountain goats, etc. also kosher. The meat of animals that do not meet these requirements is called treif meat. The rules of kashrut prohibit eating the meat of many animals, not only pork, but also rabbit meat, horse meat, etc. Why is pork considered the most striking example of an animal unfit for food? First, there is a direct indication in the Torah that the consumption of pork is prohibited. Secondly, pigs are bred a lot all over the world, and therefore the refusal to eat their meat looks especially noticeable. But there is also a symbolic explanation: when a pig stands, it shows that it has cloven hooves. This is one of the signs of kosher. But she does not have another important sign: she does not spit up chewing gum. Therefore, sages compare pigs with people who, flaunting their positive qualities, hide serious shortcomings and mislead others. For the meat of a kosher animal to be edible, the animal must be properly slaughtered and the meat properly processed after slaughter. Fish and sea life. Kosher fish have two characteristics: they have scales and fins. Only fish species that have both of these characteristics are allowed. Fish that do not have scales, shark, catfish, eel, sturgeon, as well as all other inhabitants of the water depths, such as crayfish, oysters, mollusks, are prohibited for food. The vast majority of fish, except predatory, are kosher. Fish, unlike animals and birds, does not need additional processing, ritual slaughter, removal of blood. The roe of kosher fish is also kosher. So, red caviar is kosher. But black, sturgeon, caviar is not kosher. Birds. The Torah does not provide signs of kosherness by which it would be possible to distinguish between permitted and forbidden birds for food. Instead, 24 species of non-kosher birds are named. These are mainly birds of prey or scavengers: crows, ostriches, pelicans, storks, herons, hoopoe, etc. Since we cannot today accurately identify all the non-kosher birds listed in the Torah, we only eat poultry that are known to be kosher from tradition. Fortunately, they include most poultry, that is, turkeys, chickens, pigeons, geese, ducks. As in the case of animals, poultry must be slaughtered in a special way, and its meat is subjected to a special treatment. Insects and snakes. All amphibians, reptiles, rodents, insects, etc. are strictly prohibited for food. From pure to pure. One of the most important principles of kashrut is this: what comes from the pure is pure, and what comes from the impure is impure. From this it follows that one should not drink the milk of an unclean animal, eat the eggs of an unclean bird, eat the caviar of an unclean fish. The only exception to this rule is honey. It is kasher, although it is a product of the vital activity of insects, bees. Rules of ritual slaughter, shkita, and kashering of meat inflict the least amount of suffering on the animal. This requires a very sharp knife without the slightest roughness or unevenness on the surface of the blade. The knife instantly cuts the animal's throat. A person who performs the ritual slaughter of animals, that is, shechita, is called a shoichet. Shoichet must be a very God-fearing person and strictly observe all the commandments. The reason for this is that the Jews who eat this meat are forced to rely entirely on the honesty of the slaughterer. If he makes a mistake, no one but him and the Almighty will know about it. In addition, shoichet must have a special education. After the animal is slaughtered, the shoichet checks the internal organs of the animal. There should be no signs of a fatal injury or disease. If there are such signs, the animal is not kosher. Then the shoichet removes fat and the sciatic nerve, which is called the marijuana guide, from the carcass of the animal. Thor's blood strictly forbids eating the blood of animals and birds. Before cooking livestock or poultry meat, blood is removed from it by salting out, soaking or roasting over an open fire. Meat that is sold in a kosher shop has usually already undergone a blood removal procedure. Blood is forbidden even in the smallest quantities. Therefore, before cooking, the egg must be checked by pouring it into a transparent glass container. If a speck of blood is found in it, it cannot be eaten. Meat and dairy. The well-known prohibition, do not cook a kid in its mother's milk, Torah repeats 3 times. Jewish sages deduce from this as many as 3 prohibitions regarding meat and dairy. Do not cook, i.e. cook meat and milk together. Do not eat meat and milk together. Moreover, a break should be taken between meat and dairy foods, after a meat meal before a dairy meal, at least 6 hours, after a dairy meal before a meat meal, at least 1 hour. Do not use a mixture of meat and milk in any way, for example, sell a cooked dish or treat someone to it. Meat and dairy food, according to the laws of kashrut, are cooked separately, often on 2 different stoves. In the house of a believing Jew, there are always 2 sets of dishes, for meat and for milk. And they even store meat and dairy dishes separately. Plant food. All plant foods are kosher. But, since the Torah forbids eating insects and worms, it is necessary to take precautions and check cereals, flour, legumes, greens, as well as many types of vegetables, fruits, and berries, to remove insects and traces of their vital activity from there. For each type of product, there are certain methods of verification. Sifting flour, sorting cereals, cabbage, lettuce and greens are checked in the light, cauliflower and broccoli are soaked in salt water and then washed, fruits and berries are simply examined, fruits such as cherries, peaches, plums, etc. Before checking, they are divided into halves and the stone is removed. Drinks. Drinks are subject to the same rules as food in general. Separately, it should be said about the wine. Kasher wine must be prepared by a Jew. This is due to the fact that it is forbidden to drink wine that can be used in pagan rites. Related to this is the prohibition to consume any drink prepared by a non-Jew containing grape ingredients. For other drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, this prohibition does not apply. Utensils. According to Jewish law, the utensils in which food is cooked must also be kosher. All new dishes are kosher. Dishes can become non-kosher if non-kosher food was prepared or stored in it. Kosher requirements apply to all types of utensils: pots, plates, cups, spoons, knives, frying pans, oven trays, meat grinders, etc. Non-kosher utensils can be koshered by boiling them or roasting them on fire. But this applies only to metal and glassware. Dishes made of porcelain, wood, or clay cannot be kashered. The rules regarding dishes are complex and include a lot of nuances. Therefore, to resolve specific questions about the kosher or non-kosher dishes, as well as the possibility and methods of the Eksher badge kasher dishes, you should contact the rabbi. The Eksher badge. In addition to vegetables, fruits, fish, and groceries, there are a number of other foods that can be eaten without the Eksher badge, as they are known to be kosher. On all other products, there should be a sign of kashrut, Eksher. Where does Eksher come from? For this, there are special organizations dealing with kashrut issues. The organization carries out inspections, in Hebrew hashgaha, of compliance with the requirements of kashrut throughout the entire production process. And if all the requirements are met, the organization puts its stamp on its products. Action. There are several organizations that provide kosher certification for the world's food giants. Sign of the largest Jewish Orthodox organization in the USA and Canada, Orthodox Union, OY, uniting almost 1,100 synagogues in North America. Badatz is one of the most famous Israeli action games. Bada TZ, abbreviation, Beit, house, Din, court, Tzedek, righteous. Badatz Ida Haradite, Jerusalem, seal of the Rabbinical Court of the Orthodox Community of Jerusalem. Seal of the OK Kosher certification, one of the world's most respected kosher certifiers.